switch. We will switch on recording, so those who cannot join us will watch, listen, get to know the information. So we are really honored and pleased to have you here. We are grateful to the Department of International Mobility, which organized this meeting, and we are grateful to you for having this desire and your time to share with us your experience. So we would like you to start just giving a few words about yourself and your life and work. Okay.
All right. First, thank you very much to everyone who introduced themselves. It is really nice to see all those colleagues, so to say, together, interested in sharing experience. That's always a wonderful thing to do, share international experience, especially in our field, which is linguistics or translation. They are close to each other. So my name is Seyfullah Kocak, and I am also a PhD student, a fresh PhD student, actually. This is my first week in PhD. I graduated, from my master's degree on topic of Russian language and literature. Up to that point, I was studying Russian. When I started my study in the university, when I was about to decide which department to choose, I already knew English well enough, in my opinion, to be a translator. So I wanted to pick another language, which is difficult to learn and has another kind of logic from the languages I know. And I picked Russian. I studied Russian for my bachelor's degree and master's degree. And it was always my plan to shift to translation studies at some point. And in PhD, I successfully started working on translation studies. That's the theoretical part about my desire to be in translation studies and in general in linguistics. But I've always been interested in the practice of translation. Since like middle school, I've always been trying to translate some texts or speech from English. Maybe it's from a film or a movie or a serial or a video game. I've always been interested in translation. So when I was about to finish my bachelor's degree, I started working as a translator from English to Turkish for dubbing, movies, serials, cartoons, documentary films, and so on. And also I did some translation for subtitling. And other than that, I did some translation for songs and poems and plays on the scene. So I have quite a bit of experience in the practice of translation. Now I intend to mix that with more of a theoretical work. That's about all about my background. As for now, I'm working at the international office of our university in Kütahya, Turkey. And I'm currently working on the mobilities of staff and students to the countries outside of the program, outside of the European countries. And I myself now here with that program, I got selected and I have a week of training program here. I wanted to make the best out of it. So I didn't just stay in the mobility office. I also wanted to meet people from linguistics, which is my interest and which is my intended professional orientation. So here we are. And about the PhD in Turkey, I've prepared a little, so to say, presentation. I'd like to show it to you. Can you see it now?
Lovely.
All right, I won't go into details, but I want to give an overall sense of what is it to study in graduate studies in general, and especially in PhD. So I said that I'm a fresh PhD student, but I have some experience from my friends or myself from the university about PhD education. I will give you an overall look. So there is, if I can switch, yes. There are two systems which differ a little bit from each other, as you know. In post-Soviet countries, they have two different levels after master's degree. And it's always interesting to me because I don't think that I quite understand what's the difference between two systems at that point. I think PhD and aspirantura, I mean, almost the same. It looks the same, but then there is doctorantura. Can anyone briefly explain me the difference among you, please? How would you explain the difference between, I mean, PhD and aspirantura and doctorantura?
Like, I can do it if you don't mind.
Thank you very much.
Well, doctorantura is something like postdoc studies, but postdocs usually are given a place, a position for some time, a part-time position at some university. Doctoral students, I mean doctorantura, well, they are supposed to finish maybe their dissertation, doctoral dissertation, within 2 years. They're given 2 years of studies. And the thing is that we have 2 stages, so to say, scientific degrees, kind of hierarchy. PhD students or PhD Doctor of Philosophy, and then Doctor of Science in different areas. Doctor of Science have this dissertation is to be defended. Something similar you might find in Poland, like habilitation, Germany, I think, Austria or something. That's the main difference. And I mean just the high degree of qualification.
Yes, the requirements are different. The requirements to the quality, to the level of research and the level of the results to reach. This should be absolutely a new level within the field of study.
That's, I mean, a bit confusing for me. And I think that's confusing for everybody who wants to, let's say, study for PhD at any country who has the second system. So that's a difference between the systems. And for our PhD education, there are 2 phases. The first one is courses. You pick some courses, some mandatory courses. For example, for me, it's like scientific research and ethics and history of translation. These courses are the same for everybody. You should know about those topics. And as for the selective courses, you should decide about your orientation. What do you want to work on? And you should pick the courses accordingly. But in reality, it might be, in some cases, it doesn't depend on you, because the course you want to pick might not be open for that semester. And so you have to be a little bit flexible, because, I mean, the teachers might say that for this semester, that course won't be available, and it would be bad to extend your study for another semester just to pick that course. That's some reality. We have those kind of situations almost all the time, because some students want to work on a different field than their teachers, and they demand some courses which are not ready at the moment or which is not opened at that semester. So that might be a problem in our general PhD education system. So we have a major headache between those two phases. I don't know if you have it, but it's called PhD Competence Exam. So some people say that it's harder than defending your thesis because you go through an interview or an exam, an oral exam, in which you should show your knowledge and competence in the area, and also your presentation skills counts for a lot because you are basically like giving a lecture, but to professors. So it's hard to pass that exam, and unless you pass that exam, you cannot start working on your thesis. So that's a big barrier in our system. It's good that we have such a barrier in a way, because I mean, without having proper knowledge or competence field, you cannot be eligible to write a thesis. That's right. But at some specific situations, it gets so hard to pass this exam, people give up. So that should be planned very carefully, not to make students run away and to make them have the required knowledge and competence. That's a big point. And after that, if you can...
Excuse me, please, do you pass that exam at the end of the first year of studying or before entering the PhD?
After 2 years of courses phase, you pick some courses, you prepare some papers or homework, so to say, and after that, just before you start working on your thesis, you have to pass that exam.
Okay, after you have completed your educational component of studying.
Yes, exactly. And educational components are worth 120 ECTS, and also thesis work worth 120 ECTS. And you know, it's hard work. We already know that, and it might end up you doing a lot of research to be sure that you can write that thesis. And you, after that point, you think that you are an expert at that topic, although you haven't completed your PhD. And it takes up that much time that you won't find sometimes you won't find any time for relaxing or going out with friends or doing some other work you have to do, and you always use it as an excuse. I mean, I have to work on my thesis or my courses or my homework and so on, and you're always busy and tired. I mean, our people, our PhD students are like that, and at some point, you read so much text, so many books or articles, you start to read very fast. Even you are surprised about it. I mean, that's some kind of a pros of thesis work or PhD. And some cons, let's be honest, we have students here, we have supervisors, and the communication between the supervisor and the PhD student is so crucial that it might end up blowing the whole thing. I mean, student might give up, the supervisor might get sick of the student at some time, and the communication is very important, and you need to master the art of speech and communication to be in harmony with your supervisor, or vice versa, with your student, to understand him or her, so that the thesis, the work in the end would be good enough. And as I told, it's very hard to work on your thesis, and so you should have a life force twice as much as a normal person, so that you can go through it. And last but not least, you'll have to talk yourself out of giving up several times. I have told you about giving up. Some people really give up because it's too hard. I mean, even especially if you have a profession at hand, like me, I work at the university. I can go on working at the mobility office, right? Why do I need the PhD? At some point, I start to ask that if it gets too hard for me. And some people do ask that question and give up. That's a big danger, in my opinion.
Seyfullah, is it supervisor was serving a PhD student a cup of coffee?
What? I couldn't hear that.
Okay, is it your supervisor or anyone's supervisor serving a PhD student a cup of coffee?
You know, that's coffee is an essential, like a potion for student and for the supervisor, because I mean, as a student, you have to write tons of text, right? And as a supervisor, you have to read through them carefully, and you'll spend nights to complete the work. I mean, you'll need a lot of coffee, in my opinion, for such a work. So that's why you'll need a big cup for yourself and for your supervisor or student. And the most important part to be able to work on an international level, because you can find a lot of information or a lot of points of view in your own country, own university, yes, but now we'll live in a global world and everybody has to use internet or any other communication technology to get the required information from different countries, cultures, and so on. And for that, we have a wonderful opportunity called exchange. I mean, you could just use internet to write some mails or find some documents about your subject, but you could also go see the people and the education in their own culture and country. So we have that one question almost every time. Can a PhD student go for Erasmus, especially during thesis period? Because students think that it will be problematic about the academic recognition and they will have to extend their education. So I will explain that. You can go for studies from 3 to 12 months and you will get full recognition for your courses, provided you are successful in them. And you can do it even in the thesis period if your teachers or supervisors in your university and the host university accept on the equivalence of the courses. So if your supervisor says that it's okay, you can go pick those courses or get that thesis work, and we are going to apply the same grades to your work here. It will be the same as here. As long as you get that, there is no problem or barriers to do mobility for studies. Also, there's another opportunity, mobility for placement. The first one, mobility for studies, is for 1 semester, and mobility for placement is for minimum 2 months. It's like a work. I mean, you could go and attend some lectures and help with them, and you still get full recognition if you have some mandatory training in your own program. But even if you don't have a mandatory training, you can still do it and it will be shown in your transcript, and you can do it up to 12 months even after graduation. For example, just before you defend your thesis, you can apply, and after you defend, you can go work for, let's say, 10 months in Turkey in a department of linguistics, you can give lectures if that's possible in that department, and you can attend some maybe scientific work. You can work together, and all of this is just the first step, because this is just kind of an education or training. Erasmus has much more possibilities than this. This is the first step. What is the next step, you might ask? Before we go to the next step, I would like to talk about the concrete opportunities. There is an application, a new one for 2022. We are going to apply as Dumlupinar University, my university, and we are going to include, of course, your university in our application, since we have long and strong partnership. And provided it will get accepted, the project will start the next semester. And the quotas, how many students or staff can move between the universities, will be decided by then. And I advise you to ask your Office of International Mobility frequently about these opportunities. They will have the lists in the announcements, how many students can go to any university. And I think you should take this opportunity to see other cultures, other people, and the way they work in their own environment. That will give you a lot about your own work and own point of view in your field and as a human. So for the next step, and that will be the last thing I will talk about. For the next step, I want to open our presentation for our university, because we have that information in that. So I'll talk about briefly about our city and university. We have in Kütahya, Turkey, we have rich underground mines and geothermal sources. You can go to a bath, a thermal bath, and relax during your PhD study. And we have prominent pottery and tile making, as you can see in the picture. It might be on the walls of a mosque, maybe, or a common building, or it might be just a plate decorated, or some souvenir. And we have an ancient city dating back to the 7th century. We are going to see some pictures about that. And our city is safe and affordable. I mean, if you go to Istanbul, for example, the most famous city, yes, it's very beautiful there, but is it affordable? That's a problem. Our city has the history and tradition, and it is safe. Most importantly, it is safe and affordable. We have a friendly neighborhood for students, and our city is full of history. So we have a historical castle and some buildings still preserved to this day, as you can see here. This on the right is called the Temple of Zeus from mythology. And this is in the city, which dates back to the 7th century. And this is a picture from the city center. And so we have like 11 faculties, 14 vocational schools, etc. This doesn't concern you very much, so I'll go fast on this. And we have 45,000, 46,000 students. And you can see the degrees, distribution of the students among the degrees and levels of education. And we also have a lot of international students. So we have a lot of experience in dealing with the international or foreign students. So that's a plus when you apply for Erasmus, because we also have a center which is dedicated to the Turkish education for those who are interested. I think Valentina was the one studying Turkish. So that center is working on projects with many organizations. One of them is UNICEF, and you can see that approximately 12,000 students got the opportunity to study Turkish. Those may be Syrian refugees or refugees from other countries, or just the students interested in studying Turkish. So we can see our staff numbers here. Those are some information. We use them for generally for partnership and international mobility offices. That's not relevant for you. So let's go to research and development. I told you about the second step. Being a PhD student means that you are working on a theoretical work, right? But for some people or some organizations, it doesn't matter if your work has some practical, if your work doesn't have some practical applications. They expect it to be applicable to some area. It is wonderful, you're working on translation. So how useful is that for us, they ask. So you have to find some projects and grants for your theoretical work can be converted into some form of education or some form of product, let's say. We have so-called priority project areas. It is decided by our government in accordance with the needs of our people and country, and it also includes social sciences. Mostly it's engineering and stuff, but it also includes social sciences. And we have some centers. Let's get through that. And this is the first step in details. We have more than 80 active interinstitutional agreements. That's with the European countries. And Key Action 107. The new name is Key Action 171. We have projects confirmed with 11 different countries, which includes, of course, Ukraine. And this is the second step for Erasmus. The mobilities is Key Action 1. Key Action 2, KA2, is the projects. When you go for mobility, you get to know some people in your field. You meet people in linguistics, and you have some mutual ideas. You have some mutual papers, maybe scientific. And after that, you can apply together for these kind of projects. As you can see, in like 5 years, we got more than €1 million grant from European total budget for these kind of Key Action 2 projects. So this projects pay the researchers, pay for the equipment, pay for the trips, and basically they pay for everything needed. So all you have to do is work on your field and be productive. And I mean, being a PhD student, that's exactly it, being productive, making a research, making practical applications, and so on. And you can find the money from European Commission, provided you have a partner from a program country, like Turkey, or let's say Germany. And the mobility is the first step that supports that. You'll have some contacts, a network with which you can build a project and get grant for yourself, for your country, for your university, and so on. And let's go for the pictures. This is the Temple of Zeus that we have seen in the first slide. And the main building is half standing, but there are a lot of little stone like tablets stood intact. You can see the figures and maybe some writings and so on. And it's very interesting there. And there is also world's first stock market, as they say. There's like a marketplace, and we also have like a Phrygian city, an ancient civilization. They built everything in rocks. They just carved rocks and they built homes and they built cemeteries. They buried their dead inside of rocks. And there is a stone tablet carved in a rock, a very big rock, as you can see. It's like 5-story building high. And to this date, people still couldn't decipher what's written in the tablet. And they just picked up the word, I think, Midas, which is the king of that city. And it's very interesting there. You can also go see those historical places. And this is the tile work that I was talking about. And I find it similar to the work that you have here in Ukraine, wooden like boxes or plates with decorations like this. This is ceramic, by the way. And you have seen this mosque in the first picture. I told you that it can be a plate or a whole building covered with ceramics. And some more pictures about our university. This is our library. The interesting part is that, as you can see, it has a garden inside and some tropical trees and grass and etc. And it's a very interesting atmosphere there. And you can even sit on a bench in that garden and read your book inside of that garden. And we have an Olympic swimming pool, and we have a climbing wall for those who are interested in rock climbing, those kind of different cultural or any other activities. And I've told you about PhD life, I've told you about our university, I've told you about the Erasmus possibilities. I've talked a lot. Now I want to hear about your opinion about PhD life or any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Seyfullah, very much. Quite informative and mind-opening, and I'm sure each and every one of us would be eager to visit your city. And that date you mentioned, which is still open till the 28th of February, is that the possibility for our students to apply to go to your university? I cannot hear you.
That deadline is for the general project application. The university applies for the project, and until the 1st of August, project is evaluated, and the grant.
Okay, but still, well, that's the possibility. There's still is the period we can apply.
Yes, you can apply, but after the 1st of August.
Okay.
When the project is confirmed.
And am I right in understanding that our PhD students even can apply for PhD mobility after defending their thesis?
Yes, for placement, not studies, for placement, kind of a training.
Okay.
Yes.
But still, that would be kind of a student's mobility.
Yes, but they have to apply within the time when they were students, when they were in the university.
I see. Okay. Being students, they have to apply and then defend thesis and go for yes. Placement to Turkey. Thank you. Thank you so much. So everybody, your impressions, questions, opinions, please. Olga Petrovna.
I have a couple of questions. One is, what is associate degree? What do you mean by associate degree? Because
associate degree?
Yeah.
It's like 2 years of study. It's like half of bachelor's degree, so to speak. And it's like more of a professional education, not an academic. We have 2 years of study. After that, you might just go and work anywhere with that education, or you could take an exam to complete it to a bachelor's degree. So it's basically 2 years of study after the high school.
Okay, and one more question. Here we have a very broad, I would say, vector for PhD students. For example, all PhD students here, I mean at this department, are in philology. And then within philology, they may go for translation, linguistics, literary studies, etc. And as far as I understand, your specialization is narrower. Does that mean that, for example, those 120 credits that you have to get, they mean your specialization only, translation, no linguistics, no literature, no anything? Is that really so, or you are to have a wider range of subjects?
That depends on the program that you study in. I mean, I study in, the name of the program is Translation and Interpreting in English. So that's why I have only the translation courses. But you can study on a program of linguistics or specifically language and literature, English or any other language. So it depends on the program. I just gave example from my schedule. Okay, thank you. It's clear. Just a little bit different from what we're having here. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Dear students, have you got any questions?
Okay, probably I skipped this information. Thank you very much for the presentation. I want to ask about the language of your future thesis. Will you write it in English, or it's mandatory to write it in Turkish?
You're talking about thesis, writing my thesis. So I will write my thesis in English. And
do you have a
that's
choice?
a general application. Yeah. In some departments, they might allow you, or they might ask you to write your thesis in Turkish. It's like a policy. You might write your thesis in English in a university. Another university might say that you should write it in, I mean, not the university, but your supervisor, not officially, but you might just write it in Turkish. And for example, I wanted to write my thesis in Russian when I was studying in my master's degree, and my supervisor didn't allow me to do that. And I wrote my thesis in Turkish. So it depends on the university. But as for my new university for PhD, I will write my thesis in English.
That's wonderful. I mean, you have this choice, and it is prescribed in your regulations that you can opt either for native language or English. Well, so far, we do not have this choice in our country. I mean, at least at our university.
So
we present in Ukrainian.
Ukrainian. And it's strictly forbidden, or what, in English?
It isn't that strictly forbidden as far as I'm concerned, but it isn't written in our regulations within the policy of the university or within the Ministries of Education policy.
You know, but now there is a change. There is a possibility now, according to the new whatever they call it, order, that we might have, or PhD students might have their dissertations written in English, but it's a very rare case.
That's, I mean, a pilot application, in my opinion. If it is applied well, it might be more of a common of an application.
Okay, yeah, we will be moving towards this possibility. Okay, everybody, any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, Masha.
So at what stage do you choose your supervisor, and how in general does the process of choosing and negotiating with your supervisor look?
As for me, I have already picked my supervisor in my head, because when I was applying to my university, I knew that I mean, I've always been interested in audiovisual translation, which is traditionally called film translation for dubbing or for subtitling, and now it applies to the games, and in the future I believe it will apply to the virtual reality and metaverse. So I was doing some reading, and when I was reading some Turkish articles, I ended up on the same name, and that academician works at that university. So I thought that I should work with her, not with anybody else. So I applied, and in my interview, I explained why I chose that university, and they accepted me. And now, even though they might not agree with me, I will fight to work with that person. But officially, you pick your supervisor after the course period, after 2 years. But within that 2 years, you already pick some courses, and those courses are provided by the experts on that field. So naturally, your supervisor would be that person whose courses you picked. It's a natural process, but officially you do it after the 2nd year.
Thank you.
Quite interesting. Our students have to choose the supervisor before entering the postgraduate school.
Really?
They have to decide upon the topic of their research and discuss with the supervisor, present the possibility of the research novelty, theoretical, practical value, etc. So they have to be quite prepared before entering. I don't know whether there's positive or negative, but I guess at least they know what they want to reach. Are you there? Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, we shall continue with questions, dear students. Hello? Сейфуллах?
I think I have some problems.
Yes, you disappear a bit. If you can hear us, we shall.
I have some problems with my Wi-Fi, but I don't think. I think now it's okay.
We can hear you at least. Can you hear us?
No.
We shall wait a bit.
Yeah,
Ladies,
but
you get ready with questions.
Just
yeah.
freezing.
Freezing, yes. You're frozen.
Yeah, now it's good, I guess.
Well, at least you can hear. Yeah. Katya, have you got a question?
Yes, I have a question. Actually, it's kind of a little bit very interesting, but as you mentioned, you as the first course, yes, student of the PhD, and so have you faced already any challenges as it's connected to, in your translation work as a background you had? So are there any challenges there, and also with your topic, maybe the choosing your topic for your research? Is it hard for you to do so? Any challenges with your work material that you have for now of your first year of education? Have you done anything like that?
Are you already working on your research? Was that the point of the question, Katya?
Yeah, just in general, any challenges in these research that maybe probably, you have?
So, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Is it good now, my voice? All right. So, as for my intended work field topic, I have been already, it has been already decided for 2 years now, because even before I was planning to apply for a PhD concretely at some point, I was thinking about translation and some problems in translation, especially in audiovisual translation. And for example, I was thinking about the technical problems when you are translating a software, and I had some basic ideas about what should I work on. And when I was preparing to apply, I already had I mean, more than I need as far as scientific work to read, because thanks to internet, I could find any, paper, and our universities have usually their reading list available. I mean, you should read those scientific work before you apply. You should be, you should have some knowledge and understanding about those topics and those scientific works. And they usually share the book or PDF version of it online or in some place for copying, for printing it out. So you can reach many materials. Some of the materials are hard to reach. Yes, I admit that, because first time in my life, I paid $50 for a book. And I paid that because I thought that the book was very important for my field. So you might end up spending a bit more for research than you usually do in your bachelor's degree or master's degree maybe. But thanks to internet, you can, if I can reach them, you can also reach them, because you just need to learn about how to make a search. And this is a technical issue. There are some articles on the internet on how to make a search, how to correctly find the thing that you are looking for. And after that, you can find almost anything, because everything is now scanned and uploaded to internet. So that's one question. I didn't have many challenges while accessing to the material. And about the topic, I have already been thinking about translation and the problems in translation like a natural process in my head. That's why I didn't have many problems finding some topics for my thesis. It is not officially set, but I have a few alternatives, and I'm positive that one of them will be accepted.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Сейфуллах. Yeah, we spend everything on books which we have while working on our thesis, and that's natural. But yes, thanks to the present day technologies, we can reach a lot of information. I think it is even difficult to digest everything that we can reach. So we have to have this competence on sorting out and working correctly on information. Okay, ladies, any other questions? Mashenka, yes, you're welcome.
Yeah, I have one more question. Do you have any strict requirements or maybe regulations for the structure of your thesis? Like, for example, we have requirements for the structure of our thesis, number of pages, references that we put into it, materials that we reference, for example, certain number of Scopus of Web of Science articles, and so forth. Yeah. So do you have such requirements that you need to follow, to strictly follow, or you have more free in the choice of your structure and the number of pages and the materials that you use in your research?
As for the thesis itself, basically we don't have any number of pages limitations, but in some cases, some people might tell you that it should be at least, let's say, 100 pages or 200 pages or official application. That only depends on people. And about the maybe number of publications before thesis, if I remember correctly, we have that kind of requirement, but I'm not completely sure, but we should have. I'm not sure, so I won't say anything strict so that I won't misinform you, but it's a natural process. When you work on your courses, you already have enough material for 1 or 2 articles at least. So it's a natural process. And for a student who is studying properly, that requirements, in my opinion, is no problem, because you are already over those requirements just by studying properly. Having the enough time for your studies and enough effort makes you above average, above requirements. So even if you have those requirements, I mean, they shouldn't frighten you.
Okay, thank you. Just sometimes, you know, not the requirements frighten us, but they maybe slow down us a little bit, because you should not exceed the number of pages, but you have so much materials that sometimes you need to sacrifice some of it.
Oh,
Not
I
to
see.
exceed, yeah, the limits of your PhD thesis. And
You
then
know-
for that, we have our doctors, Doctor of Science, and we can extend our research. It's more deep, and we have more material.
400 pages.
examples. Yeah.
PhD thesis, what, about 200 pages? Doctoral thesis, 400. That's the limit.
Yeah, but that is a problem commonly we encounter anywhere. I mean, as a PhD student, you encounter it with your thesis. As a maybe teacher, you in a class, I mean, you have 50 minutes to talk about your topic and not more. So you have to pick the most important stuff and put it there. And if you have some time, that's also a competence to gain when you are working on anything, when you are talking about anything. So that might make you think that you're missing out of some information in your thesis, but least important part or information to put out. So if you do that correctly, that limitations won't matter.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you, Seyfullah. Hello, hello. So the idea is to present that basic gist of what you've reached, no matter how many pages you have. Therefore, you do not have that page limitation, page number limitation. Okay. You can hear us, can't you? Hello?
Your voice is freezing a bit.
The same as
I can't
yours.
understand. Can you hear me?
A bit with some interferences, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe a few more questions, and we then shall see if you have some net problems. Speaking about the structure of dissertation, do you have that obligatory part of connected with methodology of your research? Do you work out, do you explain how you perform your practical part within a specially dedicated chapter on methodology of your research?
Yes, you should explain your methodology well enough, because you know, if you don't, your work will lose much of its meaning, because I mean, not everybody who reads your work understand those methodologies or knows about them maybe. So it should have an inclusive nature, so that most of people who read your work understands it on a, I mean, minimum required level. So methodology is a big part of it.
Absolutely. The same in here. Okay. Any other questions, dear students?
Although I'm not a student, but I have a question. But we all are students all our
We are
life.
students.
Well, a couple of
lifetime.
questions. Are you supposed to have international reviewers on the reviewing team, or is it possible to do that? And another question is, judging by the number of your credits, that is 120, your studies within these 2 years are rather tense, because here PhD students might have just the limit of 60 credits. So what about this?
Firstly, about the international
Reviewers.
people in the review, reviewers, yeah. We have a rule that your committee should include some people from other universities. That's one thing. About international reviewers, there is no strict rule that it should include, but it can include. It's not a common application, but let's say we have an academician in our university from another country who's not a citizen of our country and works on a contract. So that might count as an international academician in your among your reviewers. Those kind of situations happen. As for the second part about the credits I was talking about is European system of credits. So, for example, I have now 3 courses. Each of them are worth 10 credits. And they are all like that. I have to pick 3 courses every semester, and they will end up 30 credits, and 4 semesters end up 120. So it's not like a lot of courses, but it's just an equivalence of the credit system.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Ladies, any other questions?
I want to thank you for the presentation at first. It was very interesting. And as far as I understood, while you are having your theoretical courses, you cannot work at your thesis, right?
Officially not. Yeah.
Yes. Why is it so? And why can you not work at it simultaneously? Since we are, for example, I am
Required.
Yes, I am a first-year student. I have like a ton of courses theoretical. I also don't really have time, but still I am working.
And she
on
needs
my
to
thesis.
publish her papers and participate in conferences.
Yes, I have
sharing
to
her
publish articles. I have to write different papers for publications and work on my thesis and have my courses, and yeah.
Yes, basically, actually, let's say in our system, PhD system, your courses are already connected with your field that your thesis is located in. So every course counts as kind of a thesis work preparation. On top of that, you can unofficially prepare some part of your thesis, and when the time comes, you can just present it to your supervisor or to the committee, and you could be just prepared well. I mean, it's not like the things you have prepared before that exam that I was talking about. It's not like that they are not accepted. I mean, how can they know what you prepared before? I mean, unofficially, you can work on your thesis, but what I mean by officially is that you have courses in the system that you will pick. That course is worth 30 ECTS, European credits. You should pick that every semester to be an active student who is working on the thesis officially. So that's what I mean by working on your thesis officially. You can, I mean, you can even apply to PhD with your thesis ready at your hand. That's possible, but officially, according to regulations, you have to first pick your courses, and then you have to pick that special course, which is 30 European credits, which is thesis work, basically, and so on. And we have a duration of minimum, I mean, normal duration of 4 years. It might go up to 6 years. But if you have a very good preparation and very good academic work, I mean, very good thesis, you could finish it before 4 years. I mean, it all depends on you and your supervisor and the committee.
Okay, thanks.
So the answer is clear. Okay, dear students, maybe you're interested in some more details about studying in Turkey. So you will go there as part of the mobility, international mobility, or maybe for your work there, lecturing already.
So for those who wants to get more detailed information or have any further questions, I will write my email address, my personal email,
Yes,
and
please.
the email address of our office so that they can send mails with their questions and we can keep our contact further. It's in the chat.
Yeah, we can thank you, ladies. Yeah, copy down. And maybe we can, with your help, we can get in touch, get acquainted with your professors, academicians in the sphere of linguistics. So we can proceed with exchange of academic knowledge at the level of conferences, or asking them for reviewing our papers, our students' thesis, etc. Is that possible?
Yeah, that would be wonderful. I mean, if you could just write down your mails as well, I could just copy them, take notes, and when I go back, I would send them to the relevant persons as for a request to cooperate in further scientific academic work.
And just the site of our department. Just to search for further information, that's the site of our department.
All right, I have one more request. Could you send me the recording of this meeting?
Absolutely, absolutely. We
Thank
will
you very much.
upload, if you do not mind, we will upload on our website as a report of our meeting, so those who want to watch will watch it.
That's very
and
good.
we will
Thank
send you
very
the
much.
link.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us and dedicating your time, your efforts.
And we
your
all
energy.
wish you good luck in your studies and
Thank you.
your research.
Thank
Because
you.
you're
I
worth
wish for
and your
students the
professional
same.
activity too.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being with us. And as far as I know, tomorrow, unfortunately, I was supposed to meet you, but I'm on a sick leave with my virus, so I won't go to the university. But some of our teachers working in the sphere of translation will have a talk with you, will share specificity of our curriculum, syllabus, etc. Okay, so
I see. I hope you get better well.
I will, promise. Thank you. Okay. So thank you everybody for joining today. I hope it was quite informative. And yes, as I told already, we have our mind broadened already with a view to going to Turkey. Thank you so much.
Definitely.
Seyfullah. Okay, so have you copied down the information on the chat?
Yes, I have copied
We have,
it.
so we will now, I suppose we can finish today's meeting.